What's up, YouTube? Rodrigo here, and today we're going to go ahead and cover week 2 of block number 1 of IPF Worlds Prep. So, getting right into it, in this video I want to talk about a change that I made to my squat training, specifically my squat training that I have not done in quite some time, and that is making the decision to implement percentage-based training into my programming, right? It's been a long time since I've done that. I've been training primarily RPE-based training for, I want to say, a couple years now. But before I go into why I made this decision and why it's also important to make this distinction in terms of how I'm programming for squats, is to give you a little bit of background as to how I even started with RPE and my thought process behind that. So jumping right into it, basically when I first started training, it was all percentage-based training. That was back in 2011-ish, 12-ish, right? And that was really what was popular, percentage-based training. So percent of your estimated 1 rep max. So an example would be you work up to a heavy single, you work up to a max, and then the rest of your training for the next 12, 16, 20 weeks is based off of that max, with certain periods of time where you retest, maybe not with a single, but within an AMRAP or as many reps as possible set, do a calculation, and then you get a new or different estimated 1 rep max, and that's how you progress, or that's how you measure progress, right? So for the better part of that time frame when I started training, meaning from 2012 to about 2016, 17, it was all primarily percentage based, but eventually I started including RPE, and then when I started with RPE, I only gave RPE ranges to my accessory or supplemental work, right? The main movements like SBD was always percentage.
Alright, I can't breathe that well, but 2 sets, 212.5 kilos, so about 467 or so pounds for 2 sets of 7. Oh crap, camera's uneven, there we go. Okay, so 2 sets, now I'm gonna drop down, take a little bit easier on intensity, practice good position, especially a longer pause, and then move on to, I think I got barbell incline bench for 3 sets of 10, so a lot of volume today, not the highest intensity, relative intensity, but feeling good. What's going on, YouTube? Rodrigo here. Today is Wednesday, week 2 of block 1 of Worlds Prep, and today is my secondary squat day. I'll be working with front squats, 3 to 4 sets of sets of 6 tempo squats, front squats, tempo front squats. I can't even talk. I didn't really sleep very well, so I feel kind of foggy in terms of like my energy and my cohesiveness, as you can tell. But I'm gonna go ahead and focus on a really good warm-up and then see if I feel better. Kind of just tailor the training towards obviously the RPE, which is really low, RPE 6, but other than that, I mean, easy day.
So like I said earlier, since I started with primarily percentage-based and slowly started introducing RPE to my accessory and supplemental work, eventually I just completely made the switch to all RPE-based training, including my main work and again my accessory supplemental work. So more recently, I made the decision to go back to percentage-based training, specifically for my squats. And this is because I want to test out a few theories that I had leading into IPF Worlds Prep. So prior to this prep, I ran what was supposed to be a 12-week training cycle of experimenting with a few principles of training. I won't get into the details of it, but basically I cut the training cycle short because I wasn't staying healthy, meaning I was dealing with or experiencing some pain, some issues with my body. So I cut it short, took what I could from that training block, and am now obviously basically at Worlds Prep now. So about 17 weeks out now from IPF Worlds Prep. But basically the point of it was that I realized that I was more in tune with my RPE with bench press and deadlift, but not so much with my squat. And this is probably due to the case that over the last two and a half years, my squat has been very stagnant compared to my other movements. Well, maybe not very stagnant, but it's been stagnant. My squat has always been, in my previous opinion, my weakest lift, the hardest lift for me, and unfortunately, it's been the one where I've had the most pain or association with pain, whether it was hip pain or basically hip pain was one of them. Another one was adductor pain, and the other one was upper body pain at certain positions. So it's the movement that has been associated with all the negative things you can think about. And I realized, more recently, that this started to affect my RPE gauge, I guess you could say. So my RPE was quite skewed, and I think these factors may play a role in that inaccuracy as far as RPE ratings go. And I'm sure that professional individuals like, let's say, barbell medicine talk about pain science and all that stuff, which I haven't completely dove into, but I honestly think that there is something to say about that. But anyways, the point of that I'm coming across with is that pain or negative thoughts, feelings, impulses, anything like that will definitely impact your RPE gauge. And once that becomes skewed, then everything else follows suit, meaning that you're not hitting top sets where you're supposed to, you're not hitting back offs where you're supposed to. That's going to affect performance, recovery. Everything follows if you're not accurately gauging your RPE. And that's one of the negatives of RPE that I will touch on in a different video. But for this video, I simply just want to clarify why I'm only picking moving forward with percentage-based training for the squat. And it's essentially because of those reasons. My RPE gauge is quite skewed, or has been quite skewed for my squats compared to my bench press and deadlift. And I am now about to finish week 3 of training. As of today is the 15th. So you're all taking a look at week 2. And I can honestly say that this has probably been the best decision that I've made for my squat in a very long time. Of just 3 weeks of progression, I have PR'd 2 weeks straight, multiple PRs, volume PRs, and I can definitely see, compared to my previous training, like going back in previous videos, previous footage, etc., I can see that my intention of moving the weight is so much better, so much stronger, it's so much more apparent now compared to then. And intention is extremely important when we're talking about training, especially at high intensities. So yeah, that's the main reason why I've decided to try and experiment with percentage-based training again, specifically for the squat, right? But now that I'm 3 weeks into this experiment, I can definitely see myself moving forward with this. And of course, RPE is still in the mix. RPE will always be in the mix as far as training, as far as my personal training, as far as training for my clients, because that gauge of level of effort is going to be important, and it's also going to be very individual from person to person, right? Like I mentioned earlier, my gauge for bench press and deadlifts is much more accurate than it is for squat, or at least in the past. So for some clients that may also be the case. So both variations should definitely be considered into your programming.
Alright, what is going on YouTube? Today is Saturday, and I believe it's the 8th of February. So today is the final day of the week for block 1. So ending week 2 now. And today I'm scheduled, I believe, a 3x5 on the tempo deadlifts. Again, like last week, except this week I'm really going to try and emphasize the tempo, because I went back and looked at the footage from last week and it was more like a 2 count. I'm really trying to get closer to a 3 count. A 4 count would be ideal, but there's no way that's happening. I don't think I need a 4 count on the tempo aspect of it. So anywhere between a 2 and a 3 count would be ideal for what I'm trying to accomplish with the tempo deadlift, right? So it's nice and warm again. So we're gonna go ahead and get a good warm up. I'll take you guys through some of the things I do, and then we'll get started.
So to go ahead and wrap this nice little update up, basically what we're saying is that I am now implementing percentage-based training for obviously those three reasons that I mentioned. I believe those 3 reasons. But also to push my squat. Like I said earlier, in the past I would associate my squat with the weaker lift of the 3. And honestly, compared to some of my competitors or competition, that is the case. But I definitely think that I've stumbled onto something, or rekindled something that I lost somewhere along the way 2 years ago or so. And I definitely think that this is going to be the one part of the formula as to help me really push my squat and bring it up to the level, or to a level that I know it can be at. I have a huge goal for my squat this year, and I'm doing absolutely everything in my power to ensure that I reach that goal. I've got a very tough schedule later on this year as far as competitions go. We've got World's Prep coming up in 17 weeks or so, and then a very short turnaround into Raw Nationals. I believe it's like 12, 14 weeks after Worlds. And if everything goes well in these next 2 competitions, I'll have another meet coming up early in 2021. So I have a lot of goals in mind, and specifically talking about my squat, this is one of the changes that I'm making to help me reach that goal. Now, I'm not going to get into the specifics of what that goal is, what number that is, because number 1, I want to keep that to myself, and number 2, I could do much better than that. Even though I have a set goal for that, I could beat that goal. And that's the mentality that I need to have moving forward. And that's the mentality that I'm going to keep pushing. Not only for the squat, but obviously for the bench press and deadlift. But again, today's talk is all about the squat and one major change that I made, going from exclusive RPE-based training to percentage-based training with a tad bit of RPE mixed in there. So that's going to go ahead and conclude this video. I really do appreciate those that watched the first video. Go ahead and leave comments below. Let me know what you like about these videos. Let me know if you want me to change something. But yeah, that's it. Again, I appreciate you all watching, and I will catch you all in that next video.